What is Learn Outside? Learn Outside is a fascinating approach in the education field that allows students to expand their knowledge beyond the walls of the classroom. It is a metaphor for the idea that learning should be done not just within the walls of the classroom, but also outside of it. It encourages both literal and metaphorical educational attributes, such as outdoor activities, field trips, and hands-on experiences and project-based learning. This experiential approach encourages students to explore their environment and to use it to help them understand their world better. This approach helps student agency and the gaining of a deeper understanding that they can apply in a relevant real-world situation.
Welcome to Learn Outside, podcast number 10, going so quickly. Today we have a superhero guest with us. We have Miss Jeannie Shuck. She is an expert in experiential learning. She has earned her master's in experiential learning and development and has spent a lifetime diving into experiential learning. And so really looking forward to diving in and meeting Jeannie and learning more about her walk through life and through experiential learning. But before we do, just real brief, Learn Outside is just a discussion about innovative and effective teaching practices around experiential learning. And I am Dr. Candy Van Buskirk, host of Learn Outside. And as you see, we don't have Dr. Nash with us today. We usually have Dr. Marilyn Nash, but she is down at a PD in Indianapolis, the Maker Manager PD. So really looking forward to Marilyn coming back and learning more about the work that she was able to dive into. But now as we move on, we always do our Learn Outside moment of the week. So Jeannie, if you could share with us just a Learn Outside moment of the week.
Learn Outside moment of the week. You know, it wasn't in the last week, but when you asked that question to me, I immediately thought of a little boy that I taught 6 years ago. It was at one of my leadership camps at Firefly, and he was insecure, in his shell, uncomfortable in his own skin, really had a difficult time socializing, communicating, feeling confident, feeling capable of doing anything. And it was about the third day into camp, and we're sitting around the closing circle and we're doing our roses and our thorns for the day. And he said, "My rose is everything at this camp. I feel better about myself and I feel good about who I am. And my only thorn is that it's going to end on Friday." And through that little boy really is one of my true inspirations of continuing the work that we do through experiential learning.
How powerful of a comment is that? That just
He's a great kid.
Yes.
He is a great kid.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember seeing him sitting on that little, we have tree stumps in our closing circle, and seeing him sitting there and just seeing his confidence build by being outside and by engaging with us all throughout the week, and what that impact had on him. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is very awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. I know those impacts really help to continue to drive the work that we do.
Yeah.
And it's clear that it had an impact on you and the work that you do as well.
Yeah.
Well, my Learn Outside moment of the week happened this week. It happened yesterday. It's interesting. I learn from my kids. I feel that as life goes on, I become a better human because of my own children. And yesterday I had to take my daughter to the airport. She's flying out to visit a good friend of hers that she had met in high school. And it was on her to figure this out. She figured out her flights. She figured out how she's going to do everything. And she's supposed to have a layover in Toronto, Canada. And it was just a 2-hour layover. And so, I dropped her off at the airport, and she had been delayed up to that point and was realizing I might not make my connecting flight in Toronto. What do I do? And I said, well, how do you handle that? So, and she's not an extrovert. She's not like her mother. She was very hesitant, but she went up and she talked to the lady at the counter and shared her situation. And the lady was just so kind and said, let me take a look. She was able to get her a direct flight out later, but was able then to catch up with her friends, and everything worked out, and just really was able to decrease her anxiety. But we have to have those moments where we have to do things and try it. She'd never done that before. So now the opportunity for her to reflect on that experience and know that communication is so valuable and we don't have to be afraid to communicate. It makes me think of the little boy from your camp, right? He came in and he was just, nervous and, in his shell, and then was able to figure out and navigate that. And I feel that this was just a small piece of her being able to navigate.
That's an awesome story. Yeah. Good job, Selah.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, now it is time to go to a commercial break. So we will be right back, and when we come back, we will once again have our superhero guest, Miss Jeannie Shuck.
This message has been brought to you by Robotic Summer Cleanup in the Loft. That was a message from Robotic Summer Cleanup in the Loft. Now back to our program.
Welcome back to Learn Outside. We are here once again with Miss Jeannie Shuck, our expert in experiential learning. And Jeannie, share with us what has brought you to this point in your career with experiential learning.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me to share this platform. I am so passionate about experiential learning. That's why I've spent my whole career diving into it and working with children and adults. But I started I'm a teacher by trade, and I jumped right into experiential learning right out of college when I graduated from IU. I was a second grade teacher, but quickly transitioned into summer programming, where I did an outdoor experiential camp for the kids that I served at that school. And I've continued that path for over the last 25 years. But I taught a lot inside the classroom and started that way. And one reason that I got so passionate about anything experiential based in education is because I've always been I was one of those kids that couldn't sit still. I was looking out the window, I was waiting for the next thing, I was just always ready to go. And the way that I learned best was by doing, not by being told, but by actually having an experience that's affiliated with whatever we're learning in that curriculum. And that was a pivotal moment for me to understand, how can I best reach my own students with what I'm trying to teach them? If it's math or science, or if it's leadership development and character development, which is really what I went into over my career and where I'm at now. But that platform of starting with kids in summer programming when I was young and they were little, moved quickly into leadership development work at the middle school age, quickly moved into getting a master's in experiential learning and development, so then I can also work with adults, and stepping outside of the classroom and starting a business that did character and leadership development, all experiential based for youth and adults, and then carries me and transitions me into the JWAS Foundation, who I work for now, and we do all experiential learning in all of our programming for the kids that we serve and also their parents and the whole family.
No, thanks for sharing that. So I apologize, I didn't mention at the beginning that you work with JWAS, the foundation, and when I really remember you diving into experiential learning, you had started Firefly Adventures.
That's right.
Yeah, so can you share a little bit about how that developed, and then how that has now led you into leading the JWAS Foundation?
Yeah, so JWAS Foundation is in St. Joe County. I live in LaPorte County. We have a family farm called Firefly Farm, which is a recreational horse ranch of about 300 acres that is the most inspiring space that I've ever come across.
I would agree with that 100%. I have so enjoyed my time when I've gone out there.
And so when I thought about starting a business that's offering experiential-based learning programming for kids and adults, I immediately thought of that space and thought, wouldn't it be so wonderful to bring everybody here so they can be inspired by the outdoors, by just the natural environment, the peace and the tranquility that outdoors gives all of us and grounds us. So Firefly Adventures was born, and we did etiquette camps, leadership camps, family retreats, adult retreats, business, corporate leadership development retreats out there, but all based on building confidence and connection, not only in yourself, but with your team. And so that really was the platform of establishing Firefly Adventures. which then brought me to JWAS because they hired me to start all of their leadership development and their programming. And as an educational consultant, they brought me on as well for that role. And it quickly just evolved, and they kind of absorbed Firefly because I'm there full time now, and I couldn't be more passionate about what we do at JWAS because all of our programming is built around the goal of building confidence and connection amongst everybody that we meet at the foundation. So it's not just the kids and their parents, it's the board members, it's the team members, it's our donors. You know, once we build that confidence in people and establish a connection that they have within themselves and with others, that's when people really blossom. So it doesn't matter what you're trying to teach them. If they're feeling good about who they are and what they're doing, then they can focus more on that science project or that math curriculum or whatever it is. But when you get people outside and active and engaged with whatever your goal is in your curriculum, that impact is deeper and more meaningful, and it lasts longer than the traditional educational platform.
No, absolutely. And as you talk about when you feel good about yourself, you feel more connected. And we really talk about whole child learning.
Yep.
And as we dive into experiential learning, it's really important that it's whole child. We have to meet the child where they're at. And we also talk about something called the 6 C's, and the 6 C's is collaboration, communication, critical thinking, but it also has confidence in there. And having that confidence in ourselves so that we can do. And one of the pieces that's so important in education is that students feel empowered.
Absolutely.
And they have agency in their learning.
Absolutely.
And in order to do that, the work that you're doing, kudos, because it is the child first. And then let's dive into the learning, into that deep learning. But deep learning can't take place unless there's a level of confidence and feeling connected and feeling belonging.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the components of doing outdoor education and bringing those experiences outdoors. The natural environment naturally calms us down. Doctors are actually prescribing to people, spend more time outdoors. Go take that walk. Go take your shoes off and your socks off and go put your feet in the grass. And there's a real reason behind that. There's a real connection to the outdoors. We're a part of that environment. Our current, the way that we all live, the way that we all currently live, doesn't always allow for a lot of that opportunity, and especially for kids that maybe live in a large city who don't get to go see those trees and take those hikes, that type of thing. So any way that we can engage children in an outdoor environment, meeting them where they're at, whatever space that they have available to them, and utilize that in the best way that we can and the most that we can, will deepen our impact with whatever we're trying to teach them.
Right?
Yeah, so.
No, I appreciate that. And it is just, there's just such a value to that. And you'd shared earlier that you were one of those children that really needed to learn by doing. I too was one of those children that
still like that.
Yes, very much so. I share this story in my senior year in physics. Mrs. Grew, phenomenal physics teacher, and phenomenal because she knew who I was as a person. And every day I asked to go to the bathroom. I did not need to go to the bathroom every day, 8th period. I just needed to move. And I would go do pull-ups in the bathroom stall to burn energy, and then come back and dive into the physics
Kudos
lesson.
for you that you can even do a pull-up.
Well, I can't do that anymore.
That's awesome.
Way back in the day. But as we're talking about experiential learning, can you share experiential learning, an example of what that might look like at one of your camps, or specifically what that looks like with JWAS and your students?
So one of our most fabulous programs that we do at JWAS is we do etiquette classes for the kids. And that, again, is to build confidence and connection in the children, and no matter whatever environment they may come across in their life. So they take this class every year. There's different levels of the class depending on their age, and even the parents take a class. But these programs are all about drawing out your own dining, how do you set a table? They draw it, then they practice it, and then they also go to a restaurant and actually do it. So everything that we've been teaching them about, what are some of the dining and social graces when you're having a dinner with your family or your loved ones, and what type of conversations do we have? What type of conversations do we maybe want to just keep in our pocket and not bring to the table that day? We talk and we learn about those things, but then we practice it. So we practice, they dress up, they go to a restaurant, they practice all of their skills, they practice their conversational skills, and that, having that experience, it allows them to be like, this is my chance to show you what I've learned. It's not a written test. You're actually going out there and going to a real restaurant. You're saying thank you when somebody opens the door for you, thank you when they pour your water, that they are experiencing it. So that's one of my favorite programs, and because I also believe that even though our social graces are changing in our culture, a lot of them aren't, and there's a lot of foundations, a lot of tradition that people actually want to hold on to if they just learn what they are. So we do that even with the parents, which is a hoot. That's really fun. But our leadership camp, we do a full week where we bus them out to LaPorte County. So they take a bus from South Bend. It's a 50-minute ride to and from, and some of these kids, that's like their favorite part, is just going to ride the bus with their Jackson Scholars, with their buddies. So there's 20 Jackson Scholars. We select about 2 children a year, and we will offer them a full ride scholarship from preschool through college, and they have to attend on all of our leadership programming that we do, which is about 10 programs a year. So the camp is our biggest one. It's the longest one. It's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The kids get bused out there, and the whole day is, every year we have a different theme about what leadership traits that we want to teach them about, or what's the theme that we want to have for this year. And right now, a couple years after post-pandemic, a lot is the emotional well-being and the mental health of all of us, of handling stress, managing that, what does that look like. So we take that theme and then we create leadership traits for each day of the week based on that theme, and then we teach them about it, but they're experiencing it. So it's all through team building initiatives, it's through games, it's through role playing, it's through hiking and fishing, it's a closing circle. All of these things, we filter in those conversations of whatever the theme of the day is for that leadership trait, and how can we apply that in our lives, but also how can we practice it while we're at camp. So we are always focusing, all of the leaders that help us and our volunteers, we're all focusing, how can we bring what we're trying to teach them to have them practice while we're there in person. So, but the best thing really is being outside, and they come home dirty and they're hot and they're exhausted, and they go to bed and they're ready for another day, and like they're connecting with the outdoors and nature, where they're feeling calm and confident and more secure, just because we're bringing that element to the program. Just being outside.
Right.
It's really, you can't really quantify that. Like, it's so important.
Absolutely. Well, and I can only imagine it's their favorite week of the year.
It's pretty fun. It's my favorite week.
Yeah, I bet it is. I'm sure you're exhausted by the end, but I'm sure it's phenomenal.
Well, because you just see them, again, like, just like that little boy at that closing circle, and like how they just build their own confidence and whatever we're trying to teach them. But the more that we build their confidence and we focus on education that focuses on building their confidence, then everything else just falls into place. Like, then they can be better inside the classroom. They can be a better communicator with their parents or with their siblings or their friends. Like, it's all, like you said, it's the whole child. It's all connected. So.
No, that's good. And when you were talking about having the theme for the week and social emotional and everything being encompassing, and that might be this year's or last year's, and you have it every year, but I can only imagine that, that through line through, right, that what your theme is also what you're hoping the culture will be. Correct. So that everything just kind of aligns, and everybody's moving forward in the same direction. Absolutely. And the beauty with it, JWAS, is that we're with the same kids for 18 years. So some of these kids, we started these programs 6 years ago. So for some of it, the oldest one's now 18, and she's helping lead the way for the youngers. I mean, and it's just like, or the littles, but it's like, it's just seeing that lasting impact and the growth over the years. That is one of the sweet spots. But that would be the same for an elementary school, where they have connection with the same kids for 6 to 8 years. Yeah.
You know, you get to see them grow and expand throughout the years.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about education is because you are
Yeah.
with the kids and you get to see them for 6
Yep.
or 8 or 13 years. And
Yep.
I feel like when they walk down the hallways or walk outside, they're just growing as they're walking.
And we become the little people.
And then we're the little people, right? Yes. Well, we are going to need to go to commercial break, but
Love
we
it.
will be right back with Miss Jeannie Shuck.
This portion of Learn Outside has been brought to you by Career Academy Summer Jobs.
Our summer job is better than yours.
This message has been brought to you by Career Academy Summer Jobs. Anybody can do it.
Welcome back to Learn Outside. Once again, we're with our superhero guest, Miss Jeannie Shuck, our expert in experiential learning, and we have come to our final question. So Jeannie, tell us, what has been your biggest aha moment through your life's work in experiential learning?
You know, my biggest aha moment is just the power of learning, how important it is. And my aha moment is when I finally learned that learning through doing and the impact that it has at a deeper level for me and for other people that I'm doing experiential learning with or teaching them. Just by the power of actually practicing what you're being taught, you're not only then learning it at a deeper level, but you also can start teaching it and inspire other people that you're with. So that really is my biggest aha moment, is just the power of actually doing whatever and practicing what we're learning. If it's inside the classroom or if the classroom is, you know, outdoors, the power of actually just being able to implement what you've learned right at that moment, it goes deep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I've taken away from that is the power of learning by doing.
Yeah,
And that's so impactful.
You said it better than I did. That's right. That's good.
No,
That's right.
but
that's
that's
it.
exactly
That's it.
what you were
That's
saying,
it.
and that is
That's it.
it is so true. And then when we can learn by doing, we can reflect on what we did and what the outcome was.
Right.
You know, I think about the young man that you talked about in your camp at the very beginning, that at the end of the week he had the opportunity to reflect on all the pieces of the camp. And it was all so impactful to him as a human.
Yeah.
And
Well, and like when you're practicing and you're in the middle of experiential learning, you're able to problem solve.
Right.
So if you create a safe space for these kids or adults, whoever you're teaching,
Uh-huh.
and they're able to practice by doing,
right.
and maybe they'd like to try it again, you know, or something didn't go right, it's all problem solving. So then by the end of your time together, you build their confidence up because you're giving them a safe space to problem solve, to reflect, and to keep practicing it over and over till they feel like it's their best work, whatever that is.
Yeah, no, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
you brought up problem solving, because we talk a lot about 21st century skills that we want our learners
Right.
to know. One of the big ones is problem solving,
Right.
and learning by doing. You are problem solving
Yes.
as you're going through.
You're right.
So
Yeah.
incredible. Well, thank you for
Thank
all
you
your
for having
wisdom,
me.
and thank you for
Thank you
sharing.
for having me.
And yes, thank you, Miss Jeannie Shuck, our expert in experiential learning. We just loved having you.
Thank you,
And
Candy.
now we need to talk about next week, our superhero guest. We will have Dr. Andrew Hoyt.
Yes.
He is our new headmaster of the Portage School of Leaders, and really look forward to his insight and
Great
diving
guy.
into experiential learning. He is a great
He's
guy.
a great-
isn't he?
he's a great guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, have a joyous Learn Outside week.
See ya.